Hey, Jim, this is Sam from California. We appreciate everything that you do. And really, you made an indelible mark in my wife and our financial education. And so we thank you. Our question pertains to dollar cost averaging versus lump sum. Every year in January and February, we try to max out our 401k, HSA, as well as backdoor Roth in January. Now, throughout the year, we do dollar cost averaging in our taxable account with set amount of savings. Last year, as we all know, the money that we placed in January lost significant amount in March, and throughout the year, probably gained about 15%, whereas the dollar cost averaging taxable accounts have gained significantly more. We didn't make the changes this year, but we were thinking about the next year, about what we ought to do, whether you recommend continuing the lump sum every January versus dollar cost averaging pretty much everything, including our retirement accounts. Once again, thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, Sam, good question. I think it's important in any discussion of this topic to really define what we're talking about. And the problem is the vast majority of people out there are using the term dollar cost averaging wrong. They are not talking about dollar cost averaging. They're talking about periodic investing. And as are you in this particular question. Let me explain the difference. You cannot lump sum an investment if you do not have a lump sum. Likewise, you cannot dollar cost average an investment unless you have a lump sum. If you don't have the money, you cannot lump sum and you cannot dollar cost average. All you can do is periodically invest. When you get the money, you invest. I hope that makes sense. So somebody who makes $15,000 a month and invests $5,000 a month, every month they invest $5,000. That's periodic investing. Okay. And when the market goes down, they benefit from that. They can buy more shares because the price is lower. When the market goes up, they buy fewer shares. So on average, the cost of their shares is lower than it would be if they bought it all at the median price. However, that's what most of us do because that's just how we make our money. We make our money periodically, so we invest periodically. We get to take advantage of that over the years. Sometimes we have a year that's like the coronavirus pandemic, and sometimes we have a year that's like 2008, and sometimes we have a year that's like 2000 to 2002, and we get really good prices on our investments. Other years, maybe you don't get as good of a price, but over the long run, it kind of evens out and works out fine. Okay. Now imagine that you received an inheritance now. Let's say you got a $1 million inheritance from your rich uncle. And now you got to decide what to do with it. Do you put all the money in right now? Do you put some of the money in once a quarter for the next year? Do you put some of the money in every 6 months for the next 6 years? What do? Well, if you look at the data on that, most of the time you come out ahead by putting all that money in at the very beginning. The reason why is because the markets generally go up. So in general, over time, if you spread those investments out over 18 months or over 6 years, most of those future investments are going to be at a higher price. And so that's unfortunate, right? You should have invested it all at once. Of course, every now and then, 1 out of every 3 years or so, the market goes down, and then you're kicking yourself. You're all, oh, why didn't I dollar cost average this in? Well, the truth is the right move academically a priori is to just lump sum it. And so that's why I wrote a post once on the blog that's called Dollar Cost Averaging is for Wimps. Because basically, most of the time, you'll be better off lump summing that money. But you're not in a position to lump sum the money because you don't have all the money at the beginning of the year. And so you're in a position to periodically invest. And I like what you're doing in that you put the money into the tax protected accounts first, because most of the time your investments are going to go up throughout the year. And so you've had the money in the tax protected accounts the longest, your Roth IRAs and your HSA and your 401k. I do the same thing you do. I put it in at the beginning of the year. Now I continue to invest throughout the year, but that money tends to go into lower priority investments, mostly my taxable investing account. And so I'm getting the benefits of periodically investing because I'm investing throughout the year, even when things go down. But I'm also most of the time coming out ahead because I'm putting money into the tax protected accounts first. So I wouldn't necessarily complicate your life by trying to spread it out in every account throughout the year. That's especially a hassle if you're doing backdoor Roth IRAs and trying to do it in there. I would simply do what you're doing and then rest assured that you did get a good price on a lot of the investments you have. It just happened to be the ones this year that were in the taxable account. No big deal, though. I think your plan is good. I wouldn't necessarily change it. But I think that's a different way to think about dollar cost averaging, maybe a little bit deeper than most people actually think about it. If you want your questions answered by the White Coat Investor, record your question at whitecoatinvestor.com/YQA or click the link in the description.
My dad, your host, Dr. Dolly, is a practicing emergency physician, blogger, author, and podcaster. He is not a licensed accountant, attorney, or financial advisor, so this podcast is for your entertainment and information only and should not be considered official, personalized financial advice.